I'm being joined by a foremost political economist, Professor Utomi. He joins us from Lagos. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us tonight. And let me wish you a happy birthday.
It's a great
pleasure. See that you and some of your friends, thank you so much, Prof. I see that you and some of your friends are up to something with the idea of the third force. What is this really about?
Well, Shehu, to be very frank with you, I particularly do not like the name third force. What I like to think of is an alternative platform to give Nigerians real government. If you candidly look at Nigerian history, where we are, one thing is clear: our country has suffered great retrogression because of the failure of our political party system. I know this because I've been at the heart of the founding of a couple of the political parties. And some of the things that we have tried to put in place: transparent, accountable political processes, clear, thoughtful, strategies about how to make life better for every Nigerian. But it seems that the traditional crowd that hang around politics in Nigeria just want state capture. They just want power. They want machine politics to use to capture power. And they don't think clearly about what to do with it. If you look at where our country stands on every measure of performance, it's at the bottom. Every measure, think of it, around the world. With the kind of talent we have, that's not acceptable. So we begin to think there's need to reassess, to ask ourselves, how can we get out of this pit that we seem to have somehow dug for ourselves? And one clear way to do is to have another party. Look, the so-called major parties that exist presently are two sides of the same coin. So let's call that one party. It is meant for personal wranglings. If you are tired of what you've been given in this group, you move to the other group. If they don't treat you well personally, not about Nigeria, not about the future of the youth of Nigeria, not about anything, you go to the other side to see if you can get something more. I think Nigerians have had enough of that. So let's call them one party. That's why I don't like third force. Then we need another real political movement driven by ideas. And so the conversation has been how to bring together a number of people to found what I call the coalition of the willing and the dispossessed. What do we mean by willing and dispossessed? Willing on the one hand, because there are people who are willing to make the sacrifice to build a country. You take some of those people, and then you take people who have been dispossessed. Why dispossessed? One of the things that happened with state capture in Nigeria is that those who have captured the Nigerian state basically try to exclude groups of Nigerians. For example, they exclude women. I mean, if you look at the number of women active in political life, in appointing positions, whether it's in the National Assembly or in cabinets, compare with Rwanda, compare with many small African countries, you will see that there is a deliberate mindset on the part of those who run Nigeria today to exclude women. There's no question about that. How does a country make progress? By excluding half of its population. It can't compete against those who use all of its population. You will see that there is a deliberate attempt to not only look down on young people, which is a tragedy for a country where the median age is about 18 years or something, to look down on young people, call them lazy and all kinds of things, when they can constitute the demographic dividend, when there should at least be a third of the cabinet, people under 40. I mean, people like us got into these kinds of positions at 27. The young people of today are brighter than I was at 27. So why are we excluding the young people of this country? It's not a matter of the future belongs to them. Now belongs to them. They are smarter than we were when we were their age. They are more exposed to the world. Technology gives them an advantage. But they capture politics of people who are driven by me, myself, and I, excludes them, talks down on them. When they try to organize to say, look, there are things wrong in our country, and let's march, end SARS. They crush it with brutality. So this is a dispossessed part of our population. The professional group who just survive as the so-called complicit middle, like I call them. They're there, agitated, complaining only in their bedrooms. Then the intelligentsia. I remind people that when I was leaving the university in this country, Nigeria's output per person was twice that of China. And then China got a leadership that began to understand better what makes for progress. And the first emphasis of that leadership under Deng Xiaoping was intellect. Go and read all the speeches that Deng made in 1978. It was about intellect and how China must turn to people of intellect to set its future course. So what do we see? One generation, 30 years later, China's output per person is 30 times that of Nigeria. It shows that there's something to say for intellect. But the current politicians in Nigeria manage to despise intellect. They disregard professionals. They have contempt for youth. And they have absolute disregard for women. And so a coalition of these groups, powered by a new thinking, by religious leaders, Christian, Muslim, that this is a leadership of disaffection that has brought us to this insecurity that we have in our country. This is a leadership of exclusion, and that the country needs inclusion. And some of those religious leaders are saying we want a new kind of people leading Nigeria. We're building a coalition of all of these.
Okay, so
Labour,
Prof,
at the meeting today, Labour made a strong statement. The president of NLC gave a powerful speech to the Lupeng president. Anyway, let me let you come in.
Okay, so I want to, before we get deeper into what you and your friends and the group, what you have in store, let me ask a more direct question now. This group that you're putting together, you say you don't like it to be called a third force, but what is the ultimate plan? What is the ultimate agenda? Is it to form a political party?
It is the
that will
alternative.
run for an election
third force is a
in
usage.
2023?
Oh, there are these two juggernauts, and there's a third one coming. They are not two juggernauts. There's one group of people. They call themselves different names. Now we want to create another group which is more authentic, more focused on the people. This is the group that we are putting together.
So, interestingly, who are those who are apart from yourself, who are the other Nigerians that are in this alternative group that you're talking about?
It's an amazing array of Nigerians. It includes leaders. By the way, for the first time, civil society is ready to be inside of the arena. They play as civil society in the past, but civil society is coming. Think of all the major leaders of civil society, whether it's Femi Falana, Obi Ezekwesili, they're all part of this arrangement. Labour, like I told you, the NLC president was represented by one of his vice presidents. He wanted to be there personally, and he read his written speech in which they made full and total commitment, and they will bring the labor movement into what we are founding. People like Dr. Usman Bugaji were there, from the Senator Dan Sadao were there. Former Governor Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso was there today. I mean, on and on. Think of the true leaders of the Nigerian people who connect to the people. They were there, and they were fully committed for this process to
okay, so I'd like to follow up on that. So you've described, and I would like to put you right on the spot. It does look like you have condemned the APC and the PDP, which are the major political parties, which you say, oh,
there's nothing to condemn.
A third force to them.
Yeah.
So the question, Prof,
there's nothing to condemn. They condemn themselves.
If you look, how have they condemned themselves, Prof?
Look, have you seen a video going around? I think Reverend gentleman talking about the arrogance of failure. This is the ultimate failure. Just ask your question that's asked in politics. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Are you, Shehu, better off than you were 4 years ago? Tell me, answer the question. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? This has been systematic retrogression for our country. And you say people are condemning? No, people are not condemning. They're just saying on a basis of accountability, this is complete failure. But we have a strange situation where the failed are arrogant. The failure of arrogance, or the arrogance of failure. It is, I don't know what language to use to describe this kind of arrogance of failure. If we had democracy, they would have been kicked out a long time ago. But because Nigeria's democracy does not quite work, and you see that happening in Africa, all this rush of coups in West Africa is because politicians who should have gone are using all kinds of methods and means of state capture to prevent themselves from doing the needful, which is get out of the way. And so soldiers are getting angry and coming to get them out of the place. We don't want that. We don't need that in Nigeria. So we want to consolidate a democratic process of getting them out of the way so that we can govern in the interest of the Nigerian people. We have suffered far too much. The youth of this country, which should be propelling us forward, have been so reduced that they have nothing else to do than to become cannon fodder for all kinds of agitators. And that's why insecurity is everywhere.
So let me come in again here.
This kind of
you've described how the present political game has looked, especially what we've seen in the past few years. PDP and APC, from your description, they're just one and the same, with just different appellation. I mean,
Absolutely.
based on what you have said tonight. But if you look at some of the names that you have mentioned also, they're either from the APC or from the PDP. You being a member of, I mean, you are a member of the APC, except if there is a difference from in the last few hours or weeks. So the question Nigerians will be asking is, we are obviously not seeing any person that is new. These are members. You've mentioned Dr. Obi Ezekwesili was a member of the PDP, served in the Obasanjo cabinet.
Okay.
So majorly, we have seen people who have also been in politics that are coming together to say they want to form this alternative. So what is now different?
Yeah. Okay. You know, Shehu, tomorrow the Center for Values in Leadership hosts the 19th in a series of its annual lecture symposium series. Now, one of the speakers, I don't remember what year, like 10, 12 or more years ago, was a certain Nigerian, a very dear friend of mine, who was Under Secretary General of the United Nations at the time, Professor Ibrahim Gambari. When he spoke at that symposium, he was very, very critical of the way Nigeria was governed, functioned. And somebody asked him a similar question from the audience. He said, you, Professor Gambari, you were a minister in the government. How are you criticizing? And Professor Gambari said, look, let me tell you, there is a difference between being in government and being in power. There are many times when you are in government but not in power. And if you are not careful, they will use you to make a mess of history. We generally, at the core of this movement, have generally not been either in government or in power. But those who have been in government and in power have often been those that were marginalized because of a distrust of intellect or a fear of integrity. And so government increasingly became an agglomeration of, let's face it, people who in most countries would be in prison. I heard somebody describe a government as a criminal enterprise in Nigeria. I was shocked, but it was on, you know, a government television channel. But that is the truth, actually. So many of the honest people, capable people, who were somehow incorporated, you know, in political science, you talk about the cooperative state in post-colonial Africa, where people are sometimes just brought in so that they can be rubbished. Many of them were brought in and very sadly had to live through being brought into government without being able to influence things. I mean, I can talk forthrightly about a major conversation I had with late President Yaradua. I recently reminded Engineer Eze about that the day I came in at the invitation of President Yaradua to see him, and he, Steve Oronsai, Remi Babalola, and who were coming out of a meeting with the president. And President Yaradua, I said, look, he wanted plenty of time for us to chat. Let's go to the residence. And we went to the residence and we talked for hours. And when President Yaradua said, so why don't you come in and do what you are saying we should do? I said to him, look, the cooperative state in post-colonial Africa many times involves bringing in people who you think you need to keep quiet. That if I were to do such a thing, I would need guarantees that first and foremost, but first of all, I said, I'm a patriot. I don't have to have a title. I don't need to be in government to make a difference. You can call me at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., I'll give you my best view. He said, no, you can make a greater difference inside of government. I said, but the cooperative state can make you get brought in and squelched, and your value is lost. But that if he was determined to make a difference, he should get 7 good people. Allow the other characters to go and make money as minister of this and that, minister of transport and all those places where they award contracts. Allow these core 7 people have his true backing and really drive the country towards the direction it should go. And President Yaradua said to me, well, okay, why don't you go and bring me those 7 names and you join them as the 8th person, and I will give you all the assurances. Well, it's a long story about how that panned out, because I said I needed to go away, write these names down, and send it to you. Well, the general speculation is that he never got the list I sent to him. And unfortunately, he went, he took ill, and then eventually passed on. So, it is critical that we deal with a commitment to changing things, which is not what the arrangements we see are. They are just arrangements for power. Because if they were not for just use of power, why would Nigeria be where it is? It is so obvious. Look at where Nigeria was relative to South Korea. Look at where Nigeria was relative to many other countries. Look at where Nigeria is. If there is a clear goal and people
Prof,
who knew what they were doing were committed, Nigeria won't be where it is. So the report card is very clear. If the Nigerian people
Prof, let me ask you,
they want to
Prof,
be pulled out of where they are, they must have to turn to a new direction.
When are we likely?
And because
when are we likely to see these?
There are 2 sides of the same coin.
So sorry, can you get me? Apologies
That's what we're
to
trying
cut
to do.
in.
That's why I don't like the third force usage. It is the real other force committed to true progress compared to those who are committed to power and use of power for their personal aggrandizement, this narcissism, this self-love that has eaten into Nigerian politics that we must save ourselves from.
Prof, I don't know if you can hear me. I'd like to cut in quickly and ask you to pick up on what you've said. And my question really is, when are we likely to see this idea culminate into a political party? Because that is the only way by which you can bring to the fore, or you can bring to reality. Okay, apologies. I think for some reasons we've lost that connection with Prof. I know that he's unable to get me, but Professor Utomi and some of his friends are forming a group. Some eminent Nigerians are coming together, and their main agenda is to, in 2023, present a front that will be an alternative to the main political parties that we have in Nigeria. And we've been having this conversation as to what the plan and the agenda of these group of persons are and what their ultimate goal is. Whether or not they're ready for 2023 or is for an election that is for the future. But we'll take a break. And when we return, we hear more from Professor Utomi and on the idea of the third force. He doesn't like to be called third force. He says the alternative to what we have on the ground. We'll return with more from Professor Pat Utomi. Join us again, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us right here on the program. Professor Pat Utomi is a political economist and one of those Nigerians who are coming together. They had a meeting today, and the agenda is to form an alternative to the major political parties that we have in Nigeria. We appear to have to lose connection with him earlier, but I understand that we are back with him. Prof, if you can hear me, what I wanted to get out of you earlier, before that glitch, was whether or not you're planning to have these culminate into a proper political party before 2023, because I'm not sure time is on your side right now.
No, time is fully on our side. And that's why I think that the people who create these things, fully on our side. We have set up a huge committee that includes, with me as chair, includes Dr. Usman Bugaje, Mr. Femi Falano, Kingsley Moralo, and on, to finalize the fusion, what is called the fusion process. A couple of political parties have volunteered and surrendered their parties as platforms. A few of them will fuse together and will use one as the base. So there's an existing registered party from these several parties that have declared a willingness to surrender their party license to this cause. Then we bring the various movements like the Rescue Nigeria project and NCF and all of those, and then civil society broadly. And as I said, the NLC made one of the most powerful statements there today about their total commitment to this process. So we're mobilizing labor massively. But more importantly, we are hitting at the base of Nigeria, the young of Nigeria, the youth of Nigeria. We've got a young lecturer in Kano, Nasser Sidi Ali, who is part of the core of the new secretariat of this movement, and he's focused on university students. Look, if we just get a quarter of university students who have been brutalized by this system, who have been left uncared for, we just get a quarter of them to register and a small portion of those to vote, Nigeria will be flying. We would have gotten rid of this political order. So we have it worked out.
Let me again.
And believe
so
me,
it does look like
effect.
You have all of this properly mapped out. So let me ask again on this note to find out how then do you hope to decide on who will be the candidate of this alternative platform that you are putting together?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Are you the one? Are you the man that is going to be on the ballot?
Well, I thank you because it's a very important point to raise. You know, we've been obsessed with this man, this one man, this hero, this messiah. One of the core things about the group we are building is collective responsibility. We are going to be working as a collective. At the right time, anyone, and we have agreed amongst us, anyone that they say, look, my friend, you should just go for us on this thing. Everybody else stays in the groups, backs that person. And it is not just about presidency, because Nigeria is obsessed with presidency, whereas what Nigeria should be doing is preventing the presidency from getting in their way. What is even more important in this country is making sure that the governors are not the tyrants that they currently are. And getting people who want to lead, who can lead, to be governors and local government chairmen. One of the parties, Senator Dan Sadao made a brilliant presentation at the event today. The parties, former Supreme Court judges, will be local government chairmen, former permanent secretaries, and those kinds of people. We want to build from the bottom up. Let's give the people at the grassroots real government. So the president can be anybody. But importantly, the leadership will be collective. And at any point in time, the group
willing
can say,
to
look,
take
okay,
up that challenge,
you, my friend, be
would
president.
you be willing to take up? I said, would you be willing to take up the role?
Which challenge?
If it comes to that time of being the presidential candidate of the alternative?
I will take up any role. I can be local government chairman and be very happy at that. I can be president. I have no problem with that. I can be anything that serves the people. I mean, look at where my story started.
Another issue here, Prof, is that another very important thing that I'd like to raise with you, Prof, is the timing of political activities, what it needs to galvanize, because all politics is local. At the end of the day, people have to go down to the political unit, to the polling unit, down to the ward, then to the local government, state, before national elections and all of that. So politics are local predominantly. But the question is whether or not you are coming out early enough, because primaries are going to be conducted in a matter of a few weeks, and people then will decide on
let me
what
ask
they
you a
want
few
to do.
questions.
Are you, just a moment, Prof. How much of a threat is this alternative group to the APC and the PDP?
It is not a threat, it is a dismissal of them for a new order, not a matter of threatening. The truth of the matter, you are the man on top of it. Give me some numbers. How many people voted for my friend Chukwuma Soludo to become governor of Anambra State? How many people? 100 and something thousand people? How many people voted for Jide Sanwo-Olu to become governor in Lagos? What? Maybe 400 and something thousand people? If we just got the students in Nigerian universities to go out tomorrow and we can mobilize them within 24 hours, there will be more people than voted for all these people who are currently governors. Why is it a difficult thing to do? In 48 hours, we can dismiss this political class. 48 hours. We don't need 1 year of... It's because they depend on bribing people, buying their votes, doctoring votes, and in the end, only a couple of 100,000 votes. But the oppressed of this country, who are so many, all you need is give them the message. And because they are in groups we can put together. By the time we hit the Association of Professional Bodies of Nigeria and say, you professionals, you got to get in line with how to build a nation. By the time we hit, like I mentioned, the students, hit university lecturers, hit this, we will bring out 20 times as many votes as have ever voted in Nigeria. So
we need to close on this segment.
In
so
the UK, in many countries
what
in the world,
is
a couple of weeks phenomenon.
Yeah, in 30 seconds or less, if you may, Prof, because we need to wrap up now. I'd like to ask you, what is the fundamental objective or agenda of this group in looking at all the myriads of problems confronted, this nation is confronted with? But we can't attack all these problems at once. But there must be one major agenda or major challenge that this group hopes to solve. And what would that be, Prof?
That would be job creation, job creation, job creation in a rapid growth economy. China doubled economic growth in less than a decade. We can do even much better than that. I mean, it took, what, the United Kingdom, how many decades or a century to do that? It took Japan maybe half a century to do that. China did it in less than half of a generation. Nigeria can do it in 8 serious years if we have leadership. We can double output in this country, create jobs massively. But you've got to have politicians who are sleeping and waking up service to the people, not thinking of private jets. Look, Shehu, you and I know this economy is in total crisis. Check the behavior of any politician that you know. Senators, president, governors. How many of them have you seen their behavior change? Their motorcades are getting bigger. Their consumption of public resources is getting outrageous. Even when we can't pay bills, the country is literally bankrupt. It cannot pay salaries if something special, if it doesn't borrow excessively. And yet, the politicians are living as if nothing has happened. By the time you get rid of, let me,
Prof,
one
we
final
need
one.
to.
If you got rid of their behavior, I can take that money and say to every graduate in this country, we will pay you 75,000 naira every month and put you to productive work, just cleaning up the environment, doing things that are important to make life work. But every month from the day you graduate, you will get 75,000 naira. And we will get a new Lula da Silva kind of Brazil up and running.
It sounds so interesting. And for me here, I'm looking forward to how this pans out, because the more competition we have in the political space, I think the better for it for the average citizen who will perhaps go on the election day to vote. We probably will have to see you back on the program to tell us more on this agenda as it unfolds. Thank you so much, Professor Pat Utomi. I'll allow you to go and enjoy your birthday because I've dragged you out on the day that you're supposed to be dining with your family and friends. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
I'm happy to do this. Nigeria will rise up again.